Season 1 introduced a lot of content last week, but perhaps the most substantial of additions was the 30-some weapons added into Warzone. Both usable in Verdansk as well as the new Rebirth experience, we had a lot of new weapons introduced into the fold. At first, not much was really shaken up in terms of a clear-cut meta, but after a week of play, today I think we can confidently bring you a top 10 list here of the weapons that you should absolutely be using, especially if there's any weapon tuning on the horizon. So as we go along and talk about these top 10 weapons within Warzone, let me know your thoughts down below. Do you agree with this list, disagree, anything you'd add to it, whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts. As well, if you are new to the channel, do be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on that road to 400,000 subscribers, and we'll keep it up to date with all things Warzone, Black Ops Cold War, and anything COD related. So if you're interested in joining the community, I'd love to have you. But instead, let's talk about these top 10 weapons in Warzone and what you should be using to take over Verdansk and Rebirth Island. The first couple of weapons that I want to talk about are, to me, definitely the top 3. The rest to follow can be classified as kind of situational and don't really conform to a standard linear ranking and approach as to how we'll talk about them in this video. But first and foremost, the best weapon right now within Warzone is without a doubt in my mind the DMR from Black Ops Cold War. This thing is stupidly powerful. It has the ability to two-shot with a single headshot included in that, but the accuracy has to be prioritized because body shots don't really give it as much a competitive edge as it would be if you hit one of those headshots. Still good, but not as good. But said, if you can hit even one single headshot, it has the possibility to two-shot at that point. It cracks armor, and the rest is history. If you add stopping power into the mix, and wow, it's not fair whenever you use that. But where this thing really excels, I think, is the versatility that it has. This thing can be used up close, sure. I wouldn't say that I'd want it for point-blank gunfights. Obviously, it still can be done, but it's not really the forte of the weapon. But for Warzone in particular, the biggest thing about the DMR is the mid to long range capability. You toss on a 3x optic and you have the medium and long range covered. You'll be able to 2 to 3 tap enemies by the time they can even sight you, which when it comes to a map like Verdansk, that's incredibly dangerous for gunfights, since most of the map is open land and open environment. So if you have that distance where they may not be able to be as accurate or they can't even find you in time, you're going to be winning a ton of gunfights. Sure, in the stairwells of buildings, it may not be your best bet, but for about 70% of the map, you're in good hands with this weapon, and being that it perhaps is the fastest killing weapon in the game right now, you're absolutely set. Now, for this, I'd recommend a specific class setup, that including the Agency Suppressor, the TAC Force Barrel, the Axial Arms 3x Optic, the Field Agent Foregrip, and the 30-round magazine. Now, the Agency Silencer was just recently brought up to do the same thing as the Monolithic Suppressor, where beforehand it only offered that sound suppression, but now it offers that addition in damage range. The Task Force Barrel offers damage range, bullet velocity, and extra damage. The 3x Optic just giving you a little bit more of zoom at a distance there. The Field Agent Foregrip giving you that added benefit of more control, and the 30-round magazine modification keeping you in the action just a little bit more. And with such a magazine in play, you can wipe squads with a single mag, which is insane. Now, the craziest part when it comes to talking about ammo is that this still takes rifle ammo. It's not something like a TAC rifle where it takes sniper ammo. It utilizes rifle ammo, so that may be a change we see in the future to kind of combat how this works, but for right now, it's incredibly powerful, and I would highly recommend trying it out. Number 2 up on this list is one that if you really want to, you don't need to even overkill with it because it's better than the majority of secondaries you'll be able to wield. So you can get Ghost right off the rip here in your loadout, that being the Diameti, but with dual wield. If you remember the Magnums pre-patch, how people were running dual wield Magnums in Warzone months ago, they were insanely powerful. If you remember the Origin 12 spam, or hell, even that R90 fire rounds that you'd see up until just recently in Warzone as the main meta, yeah, this takes the place of that. It's way better than that. The Diameti dual wield is something that, with the right attachments, can spit out an absurd amount of bullets in a very short period of time. And if you are close quarters to somebody, it's going to shred through not only their armor, but down them almost immediately. You can challenge way more gunfights than you should be able to close quarters with just pistols because these things are so powerful. Not only is a single one powerful, but again, doubling that output is just insane. For the build that I'd recommend here at this one, I'd run the Agency Silencer, the Task Force Barrel, the 30-round magazine, the 5 mW laser, and Akimbo naturally, allowing you to have that dual wield availability. Now, this is something you'll have to rank up the full way, unlike some other weapons within Cold War, because the dual wield is the final thing that is unlocked here. But once you do this, once you put those together, again, it's a force to be reckoned with. And I would absolutely recommend playing around with this one, because if there is some sort of weapon adjustment here in terms of balancing for Warzone, This plus the DMR absolutely, I think, are on that list for what would probably get hit. Now, again, I think both of those are fantastic weapons that you can just kind of make this OP class setup where you don't need to use anything in relation to overkill. You can get Ghost right off the rip, and then when your secondary loadout comes in, that's something that your team can have that if you don't pick it up, so long as it's still in the zone, they can come back even if they die and get their loadout once again. But if you do want to overkill and put on a second weapon here with this, I'd highly recommend the MAC-10. This being an SMG from Cold War once again, but it is one that shreds through enemies, and just that sheer damage output plus the rate of fire makes it something that is an incredibly fast killing and incredibly worthwhile weapon to consider. Now, the MAC-10 is something that, again, you need to rank up primarily to get these attachments as with other Cold War weapons, but it's a weapon that once you end up getting it ranked up, you can absolutely demolish with it. I'd recommend the Agency Suppressor, the Task Force Barrel, the Field Agent Grip, the 53 round drum mag or the fast mag associated with it, and then also either the Serpent Wrap or the Airborne Elastic Wrap, so you can end up getting those added handling attributes. Now, the Agency Suppressor and the Task Force Barrel allows you to have that extended damage range a little bit further, plus added damage on top of that, the Field Agent Grip giving you a little bit more control, and of course the 53 round ammo modification allowing you to gun down more than one enemy at a time. That's something that becomes a little bit tough once you have that default mag in, but if you add in a little bit more ammo, you're absolutely going to be able to shred with it. Seriously though, if you are somebody that likes to overkill here within Warzone, definitely worthwhile. It is one that up close and personal, like those Diomedes, you're going to be hard pressed to lose a gunfight if you can end up landing those shots and you end up getting the jump on an enemy. So definitely recommend trying those out. But that's my top 3 without a doubt, I think, right now within Warzone. And from here, we can talk about some of the rest of what is filling out the top 10 in situational areas, but also just overall really good weapons. The next we'll talk about is one that does go back to Modern Warfare. Despite 30 plus weapons being added into Warzone here, we do see that a couple of these weapons still persist as that main meta for Warzone and what we had in the last year here. The Kilo 141 being that one that stands out tremendously to me still. Again, damage property wise, it could be better. It's not any Odin where the damage is through the roof, but it is something that is incredibly easy to manage. And things like that fire rate, the handling, the mobility with it, the recoil pattern, it's incredibly easy to manage and is one that you can master whether you're a veteran or somebody that is still brand new to the game. And that in and of itself is what makes this a jack of all trades weapon and what makes it so dangerous. For the Kilo, I'd run the Monolithic Suppressor, the Syngard Arms Prowler Barrel, the Tac Laser, or a foregrip, doesn't matter which. I kind of go back and forth between having a little bit more of that ADS speed plus also a little bit more handling, the VLK 3x optic, and then a 60 round magazine to keep me in that fight a little bit further. The VLK, additionally, if you don't recall, does give a little bit more recoil mitigation, so it helps out over some distance. But being that that's one that we've talked about before, I don't really want to go too far in depth with that one. The next weapon I want to talk about though is the Krig 6, another weapon from Cold War that is making its way over into Warzone and is one that I think has quite a bit of potential with it. Now, this is very similar, I think, to something like the Kilo, very easy to manage whenever you have the right attachments, when you learn the recoil patterns with it, and the damage output and damage properties aren't half bad for a weapon of its caliber. To me, I think this is a little bit more powerful than things like the XM4, the M4A1 equivalent within Modern Warfare and Warzone, but it is something that offers that little extra damage increase, but also is still close enough to those weapons that it's incredibly easy to manage. The Agency Suppressor, the Takedown Barrel, the Field Agent Foregrip, the 60 round fast mag, and the Mill Stop Reflex is what I normally run on this. Again, Agency Suppressor going to be that Monolithic Suppressor where it's going to be on everything. The Takedown Barrel offering a little bit more of those damage properties. The Field Agent Foregrip adding more control to the weapon. The 60 round fast mag obviously letting you have a little bit quicker reload, but still keep you in the action. And the Mill Stop giving a little bit more precision, because the Krig's iron sights, not the greatest if you ask me, but highly recommend trying this one out as well. Jumping back over to some Modern Warfare weapons, the CR56 is still up there, I think, as one of the best rifles, at least in Modern Warfare coming into Warzone, because it is a weapon that has a higher damage profile, but also is still incredibly easy to manage and incredibly mobile. The only real hurdle you'll end up having is that recoil, but once you end up mitigating that, you're entirely fine. So for this, I end up running the Monolithic Suppressor, the Zodiac Barrel, the VLK 3x optic, the Merc foregrip, and the 45 round magazine. You toss those together, and again, it is something that you control that recoil, get that damage at a distance, and can absolutely beam some enemies. Another weapon that is still in the top 10 here from Modern Warfare is that of the MP5, the the all-around meta SMG from Modern Warfare and Warzone. Still up there, I think, and it's still something that can get the job done when you come into close quarter situations. For that, I run the monolithic integral suppressor barrel, the Merc foregrip, the 45 round magazine, the stippled grip tape, and sleight of hand, so you have that little bit of extra speed when reloading. Not having that reload speed has gotten me caught in a couple of clutch 1v4, 1v3 situations where I've lost many a times, take down all but one, and then just run out of ammo and can't quite get another mag in time to complete that sweep. So I've learned my lesson. It's kind of a staple now with my MP5 loadouts. Another SMG, though, jumping back to Cold War and being the final Cold War weapon, I think, in the top 10 here, is that of one that works very well, just like the MP5 in close quarter situations, the AK-74U. Now, this one will have a little bit more bounce in terms of the recoil as opposed to the MP5, so it is something that is a little bit tougher to manage comparatively, but still incredibly easy to do. If you can do that, you end up having a nice little damage output increase as opposed to the MP5, so you can absolutely end up shredding through enemies here in close quarters engagements. For that, I'd end up recommending the GRU suppressor, which is the monolithic suppressor but for SMGs. The agency and GRU do the same thing. The task force barrel, a no stock attachment, the Spetsnaz grip, and the 50 round fast mag, keeping you in the action a little bit more. That no stock adding a little bit more in terms of that mobility and quick handling, and the Spetsnaz grip giving you a little bit more control on the weapon itself. It might be a little bit more out of the ordinary, but definitely one that I would still recommend. The final two weapons we'll talk about close out this top 10. Both are from Modern Warfare and subsequently Warzone from what we've seen beforehand. One being the Growl here, in which that is still just an incredibly easy, incredibly versatile weapon. And if you've played the game throughout Warzone and Modern Warfare, you probably know how easy it is to use. This thing can absolutely shoot like a laser and can pack a punch in the right hands. For this, I'd end up running our normal class setup that we've talked about here on the channel beforehand of the monolithic suppressor, the Tempest 26.4 inch Archangel barrel, the Commando foregrip, the 60 round magazine, and the Cronin Sniper Elite rear grip for a little bit more added control so that you can absolutely make this thing a straight shooter. Previously, I've run the VLK optic beforehand to mitigate a little bit of recoil, but honestly, you don't need that simply because the Archangel iron sights are pinpoint precise, but also then there is hardly any recoil to begin with this build. So it's something that is definitely nice if you want to shoot at a distance. You can definitely beam people over range, and one that I'd highly recommend. Now, the final weapon that I would recommend is one that is just overall covering your long range in such a great way. It's not necessarily a sniper where it has a little bit slower ADS time, maybe a little faster bullet travel time in that bullet velocity, but the Kar 98K absolutely gets it done. You can use this in mid-range. You can quick scope in close quarters if necessary. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it. And then long range, you can still get the job done as well. The Kar 98K being a one shot down to the head, so if you're accurate, it absolutely rewards you for that accuracy. This being perhaps my favorite sniper to go to within Warzone here in recent months, but for this I run the monolithic suppressor, the SunGuard custom 27.6 barrel, the tac laser for a little bit quicker of movement, the sniper scope, and sleight of hand for a little bit faster reloading. Honestly, this thing is absolutely incredible if you can end up getting a nice feel for your accuracy on the sticks, or if you're playing mouse and keyboard, if you're feeling really confident in your shot, this thing is absolutely going to get the job done. But that rounds out the top 10 weapons here, I think, within Warzone right now. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. Agree, disagree with any of these, whatever it is, feel free to let me know. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops Cold War, Warzone, and anything COD related. If you're interested, hit the subscribe button. If you also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Probably live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. But let's head out of the way. Thank you guys all so much for watching. My name has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.